Hello everyone. Today I'm at Abbey Park to share my story and my experiences of sexual abuse, historic sexual abuse in Leicester. I chose this place because I find it a place of comfort and safety. My name is Dave, and in 1980, when I was 5, my parents separated and my mother had a bit of a breakdown and I went to live with my father. He was struggling and he needed some help, so he approached social services in Leicester for some support, and he was offered some respite for me to go into the care during the weekends from Friday to Sunday, and I was placed into the Beaches care home. And the abuse, psychological abuse and sexual abuse, started the same day. This story isn't about, it's titled My Story, but it's about all the victims, not just in Leicester, past, present and future, but all those up and down the country that have been neglected, forgotten, discarded by the social services due to an embarrassment factor. I'd like to come back to my story. In the Beaches, run by Frank Beck and others, another guy called Scotch Bob, as I know him. The abuse went on for 6 months at the age of 5, going on 6, and this affected me greatly as a child, being drugged, passed, trafficked by Frank Beck and others at the Beaches. But what I really want to talk about today is how it's been handled by all concerned since. I dealt with this most of my life on my own, and in 2013 things came to a head when I had a breakdown at work, which ended up me taking the whole of 2013 off work. And I came to the conclusion in early 2014, January 2014, that I wasn't going to suffer in silence anymore, and I was going to go to the police and report what happened, because I didn't want to take it to my grave. I didn't think it was fair that I had to deal with it on my own. I walked into Beaumont Leys police station and I couldn't tell them, the desk sergeant, the desk officer, what I had to say, so I wrote it down and handed it over to the desk officer over the counter. He looked at me, he read it, and then he asked me to wait for a while, which I did. And then I spent the next hour and a half talking to 2 uniformed officers in an interview room. It was a little bit uncomfortable. No, I'll be honest, it was very uncomfortable. It was, I don't know if it sounded right or right, I don't know. It might be my interpretation. But then 2 officers from Enderby police station, Detective Pollard and Detective Markey, came down from Enderby, and I did another couple of hour interview with them, to which they informed me that there was a investigation, an operation called Operation Enamel underway, which I had no prior knowledge of. But I think what sparked this was something I saw in the news just before Christmas regarding Greville Janner and the beaches and stuff like that, which reignited a lot of things within me. They seemed very sincere, they seemed hell-bent on helping me, which was comforting. And they put me into some counselling, and I went to First Step in Leicester to speak to a counsellor, and it all seemed good. It all seemed like I was getting the help I needed. But in 2015, going back a little bit, my complaint was not just towards the beaches, but one of my experiences involved Greville Janner. So where on one occasion I woke up lying on a coffee table, feeling a little bit paralysed, like I couldn't move, looking down to see Greville Janner, I know now, or I knew later it was him, but I didn't know at the time it was him. It was just some guy there, and petrified with fear, I must have passed out again after being drugged. But what happened at the beaches from Friday to Sunday, I was drugged and passed around. So for that weekend I wouldn't have eaten, drank or anything properly, and then come Monday morning, or Sunday when I get picked up, Monday morning back to school, I had a lot of behavioural issues. I still suffer from a lot of behavioural issues. In 2015, Greville Janner died. I suppose the establishment would thought, well, now he's dead, it's all finished. But the independent inquiry into child sexual abuse was still going to go ahead, and it went ahead in 2020 during lockdown, towards the back end of lockdown in 2020, and it was a Zoom meeting. Sorry about that, I just didn't know what was happening, so I just stopped for a minute to find out. Where was I? Yeah, and the inquest went ahead, and it was all centred on, and the victims were accused of just wanting money. It isn't money. But as time went on, after the inquest, I was given a copy of independent inquiry, the full report, and I had to sign a non-disclosure agreement in order to get it, and I was told if I showed this to anyone there would be consequences. And since then I've realised the true meaning of Operation Enamel. It wasn't the fact that I was abused, it was who I was abused by and the embarrassment that it caused Leicester City Council. Operation Enamel, if you think of the word enamel, you associate it with your teeth or a protective coat, something that protects you. And I firmly believed early days that this protection was for us. I really did. But as time went on, I realised that it was more about protecting them and protecting the establishment and containing what was going on, containing us. During the inquest in 2020, October of 2020, I was assigned a handler, I suppose you would call it, someone who was there to take care of me during the inquest. And during the inquest, I had a bit of a meltdown because I kind of woke up and realised that it was all a con. And the police were using the Mental Health Act to try and detain me, kidnap me, whatever words you choose to employ. But they wanted to, and they chased me all over Leicester. They went to my wife's house, they sent out ambulances trying to get me, and they didn't get me. I managed to evade their clutches. But really what this is about is Leicestershire's council to failure to accept and help all those victims. Since the inquest, no one has come forward. No one from the council has offered help, support or acknowledgement. Just narcissistic denial by Leicester City Council. And the reason I've done this video is to highlight Leicester City Council's failing, and all those people that are still out there. Many of them have ended their own lives on drug addictions, are in a mess, and this, in my eyes, is a disgrace. The problem is, if I was abused by a dirty uncle or something like that, the police would have handled this different. But the fact that there was politicians involved, people of significant standing that had to be protected, that's why I believe I was treated the way we were. My dad had no idea that was abused. In 1991, completely out of the blue, when the investigation and Frank Beck was arrested and all that, and the police were investigating what was going on. One Thursday night, 7 o'clock, I was 16 years old. 2 uniformed male officers knocked at the door, asked to come in, sat me down in front of my dad and asked me if I'd been abused or if I'd suffered anything while at the beaches. To which I replied, I don't remember, because that was wrong. They shouldn't have done it that way. It was designed for me to clam up and not say anything. Not long after that, I took an overdose of my dad's antidepressants. Obviously it didn't work, so I wouldn't be here today telling you this story. But my dad must have known, but the gravity of it is so severe that people don't want to accept it. Parents don't want to accept that they've done it, because in their eyes they've failed. They've made the biggest failure as a parent they can make. And my dad didn't make a failure. Leicester City Council did, and still are. Protecting their own and leaving not just me but all the victims of Leicester left alone to deal with this. And it's not too late. It's not too late for the council, Leicestershire Social Services, to come forward and talk and approach the victims. They know who they are. They know exactly who they are, where they live and everything, because it's in their interest to keep an eye on these people, to know where they are, to know what they're up to, because they're scared. It was a whitewash. The whole inquest was a whitewash. The police, you see, the police are the most shocking. The detectives were the most shocking because they appeared so sincere and so nice, but they were just out to protect their masters. Even to this day, the 2 detectives that came and interviewed me have retired since, on a nice pension. And that pension's designed to do one thing. It's to stop them detectives having a wobble towards the latter part of their life. If they get any ideas of clearing their conscience, then the fact that their pensions could be affected because of it. Because they can do that. The government can do what they want, when they want, how they want, to who they want. Like I said, Leicester City Council, it's not too late. And the best thing you can do is come forward, put your hands up, say you messed up, and you're going to do everything within your power to help these people. Not just Leicester. Up and down the country. It's happening. It's happening now. It's happening as we speak. As I'm filming this now, something's happening. The kids would try and run away from the children's home, try and escape their abusers, and the police would hunt them down and take them back to their abusers to face more abuse. How horrific is that? So how has this affected me now, 40 plus years later, 45 years later, 44 years later, I don't know, a long time. How this has affected me? I have severe behavioural problems, emotional problems, post-traumatic problems. I have trouble making friendships, relationships. I struggle at work. As a result of this, I isolate myself to protect myself. "40 plus years on, and what happened in 1981 is still very, very fresh. But I want to let them people know out there that are like me, that you're not alone. You don't have to deal with this alone. But I would give extreme caution to the police and Leicestershire or any social services that you belong to with your help. And if there's any advice I could give to parents, guardians, caregivers everywhere, is if you see a change in a child's behaviour, if you see them go introvert, if you see them go within themselves, withdrawn, that's not normal. It's not a time for cognitive dissonance. It's a time to, as uncomfortable and as painful as it is, you need to look into it, because a young child can't communicate that, and they're trying to sort it out in their own head. The longer it's left, if you see a child within your family group or in your circles that's behaving like this, you need to explore it a little bit, gently. And if there's any children out there, young adolescents, teenagers, that are suffering this right now, there's one thing that advice I would give to you: find somebody. I know how difficult it is. Find somebody who you feel comfortable with, whether it be a teacher, a friend, a friend's parents, a family member, whoever it is. I want you to go to them, because it can end today, and say three words: I need help. You don't have to say any more. Just spit them words out, because your silence after them 3 words will say what's needed to be said. Silence will speak volumes. And I hope that you get the help and support you need. But most important, the abuse, whatever it's a kind of abuse that you're suffering, psychological, sexual, it can stop. There are people out there, you're not alone, that can help you. Well, it seems to be getting a little bit busy around here, and I think I've covered what I need to say. For all those people out there that are suffering, my love and thoughts go out to you, because I know what you've been through. Thanks for your time, thanks for listening, take care. Hello everyone, I've come to a place called Juniper Lodge in the new Parks estate. You'll have to excuse the noise in the background, the kids are having a bit of a kickabout, last day of term, blowing off a bit of steam. I'll just explain to you why I've come to this location and what this location is all about. Now the police have lots of locations dotted around Leicester where they can bring people who have meltdowns or struggling. Now Juniper Lodge really focuses on adults that had sexual trauma as a child, sexual abuse, and when you have a meltdown or a breakdown of sorts, this is one of the locations that can bring you. And they've got lots of these locations around Leicester that can take you dotted all over the place. I came to this one in 2019 when I had a bit of a breakdown about a year before the inquest, when I had a bit of an epiphany and realised that the inquest was all a bit of a whitewash and it wasn't what it seemed. And this obviously, this is somewhere that can bring in a container. Now when you go in there, it's very secure. You can't, if you have a bit of a session where you lost your cool, you won't be able to get out very easily. As you can see, it's quite secure. Obviously it's in a housing estate, so they want to keep it secure. But when you go into the rooms, there's cameras and there's microphones and the rooms are secure. And like I said, I had a bit of a meltdown in 2019, a year before the inquest, and like I said, this made these very nervous. So I was brought here and interviewed, and what they do, they set up a couple of counselling sessions. Now these aren't done and dusted in an hour. These go on for as long as necessary, a couple of hours and a couple of sessions, and you're led to believe and you're made to feel that your welfare is the primary concern, but it's not. It's an intelligence gathering session to see what's going on, if you're in danger to anyone, anything like that. Now, during the independent inquiry into child sexual abuse in 2020, I was assigned a counsellor, but it wasn't really a counsellor, it was more of a handler, someone you could turn to, talk to if anything was. It's basically a control. This female was sort of allocated to me to take care of me, any needs that I had or any problems or concerns I had. But really it's about control and management of the situation. Now I had during the inquest, I had a bit of a meltdown at work in 2020, and I phoned up the counsellor and basically told them that the counselling is a load of crap, the medication is a load of crap. And what she did, she initiated some sort of protocol where I had to be contained under the Mental Health Act. Well, they used the Mental Health Act as an excuse to try and contain me and imprison me. And on a particular night, the police were sent all over Leicester, to try and ascertain my whereabouts and detain me under the Mental Health Act against my wishes. I had phone calls. It was a funny night really of cat and mouse, because wherever I was, they'd either already been or hadn't got there yet. So I kept, funny enough, slipping their grasp. And I spoke to a female, very, very nasty female officer. He says, "We need to come and get you. We need to come and get you," and all this. And it's just the wording was very, very scary. And then they sent out an ambulance to try and detain me and subdue me and all this. And in the end, I told the ambulance people and I told the police, I don't need your help, I don't need your assistance, and I want to be left alone. But obviously this is during the inquest and they couldn't let that happen. I ended up phoning up the counsellor and telling her that if she pursued this any further, she's going to be in a lot of trouble. And then she obviously made a few phone calls and it was all stood down. The ambulance went away, the police stopped calling me and everything, but it was a very, very scary time, the fact that someone can just use the Mental Health Act as a means to detain you, bring you under control, and that's what it's all about, and that's what this building's about. It's about control, it's about gathering information, and sexual abuse in children's homes has always gone on for a very long time, but particularly through the 60s, 70s, 80s and into 90s, probably today, but during them eras it was prolific. You had politicians, well-to-do people, sports people, all manner of people of high standing, or you think are high standing people, would be going into these places and were guilty of abusing children, even the death of children and the disappearance of children that didn't have parents or anyone would ask any questions. So obviously this all has to be contained and monitored and everything, and in my opinion this is what the charity Childline was created for in 1986 by Esther Ranson, because if you was to ring up, I was in 1986 when Childline was set up, I was 10 going on 11, so this was 5 years after my abuse at the beaches, and in an effort to reach out to somebody, it might have been somewhere like Childline that I rang up, and I could have said, and if it had been someone of standing, then they would have been the first responders, and they could have managed it and controlled the situation. If it was a family member that was abusing me, it probably wouldn't have been so much of a bother. But if I'd have mentioned someone, a politician, or a sports person, or a celebrity, or something like that, then obviously they can control that and manage that situation. So in my opinion, that's what I believe Childline was set up for, to capture and control and manage all these abused children through them decades. And this building is no different, and a lot of the other buildings around Leicester are set up for this. It's about control and management on a narcissistic level, to control the outcome and what people said, just how it's handled. And when I was brought here, I followed up a couple of counselling sessions, and at the time you're in such despair, such need, that you're glad to talk to somebody, and it does feel a relief. But afterwards you walk away and you have another epiphany, realising that they were just fishing for information, fishing about what you know. They want to know, like a controlling narcissist wants to know what's going on, and the mental health had to be used. But when I was in there, there's cameras on the walls, there's cameras coming in, and I questioned it. I said, what's with the cameras, what's with this, what with that? And the first time I was brought in here, the lady that managed it, I apologised to her for taking up her time and for being a problem or whatever. And the first thing she said to me was, don't worry, it keeps us all in work. And I thought, what a thing to say. What an emotionless, cold thing to say. I didn't realise this at the time, but afterwards when I analysed the experience, it keeps us all in work. What, all these abused children? And then I thought about the name Juniper Lodge. Juniper means youth, or when we was young. So there's obviously a lot of control by the police, a lot of involvement. Obviously the police are the ones that have been tasked with managing this and controlling this. So I just thought I'd bring you here and show you this place. Like I say, it's tucked away, it's very secure, but has a very sinister vibe. And it's all about intelligence gathering. So I hope you enjoyed this little bolt-on video, and I hope it just makes you aware of what's going on in the background when it comes to adults that are facing up with abuse as children, because there is no help there is no support there, not genuine, authentic care, just monitoring the situation. Now, when you have a mental health crisis, the mental health team, the crisis team, they don't care. They're just clocking in, clocking out, and all they want to do is put you on medication, put you on some sort of drugs to subdue you or control you. There is no proper help and support. So yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I hope it's enlightened you into what's going on in Leicester and what's been going on in Leicester for a long time. And it's not just Leicester, it's up and down the country. It's everywhere really what's been going on. And you've got to imagine that there's tens of thousands of people out there, kids and adults, that know a lot of information, and the mental health would be weaponized and used against you to try and discredit you. He's got mental health history, he's got this, he's got that. And now it's 5 years later since I've come here, and now I'm thinking more tactically, and now I'm documenting it and broadcasting it to people in a controlled manner, not a rant and rave. But they're not the only ones intelligence gathering. I'm intelligence gathering, and I'm transmitting the truth of what's going on here, because there's a lot of people out there, kids and adults in the 40s, 50s and 60s years old that are still dealing with this, are still left with this. And these cold, merciless detectives, they're all police that work in there. They're not mental health people. They are nurses and counsellors trained by the police to covertly interrogate you and gather information and just document everything. And if need be, they'll use the mental health against you. So, like I said before, thanks for watching, take care, and I'll see you again.